Are you thinking about hosting a women's empowerment event? If so, then this video is going to help you to plan it, design it, organize it, and profit from it so your event can make both income and impact. In this video, I'm going to cover 10 key areas for organizing your women's empowerment event. The first is purpose. The second is the people that you're going to be gathering together. The third are their pain points and problems. We're going to get into how to identify making your event really compelling to them by addressing their key needs and pain points. We're going to also get into the promise of your event and the premise of the event, meaning what is your event going to give them and why is that important right now? I'm going to share how you can profit from your event and also how you can produce and plan your event in a way that's not stressful. We're going to get into packages and pricing and how to sell tickets for your event, and also how to promote your event and get people to enroll and show up. Before I get into how to create your women's empowerment event, I just want to take a moment to share why it's so important that you do so. The world is shifting. People are changing, ideas are changing, and women around the world are rising up into leadership. In fact, the Dalai Lama in 2009 at the Vancouver Peace Summit said, "The world will be saved by the Western woman." That's you, that's me, that's us. And so in order for us to do our part to uplift and inspire humanity, we have to step into our own leadership, our own voice, and our own full expression. And I found no better and more fun, quite honestly, way to do that than hosting women's empowerment events. Not only are they a great way to make a living, they're fulfilling and you're contributing to something greater than you. They're a great way to make an impact. So here are some of the problems that I faced when I started doing my women's empowerment events and that you might be facing too. The first is that I tried to plan the event myself and it was exhausting. Another problem that people do is that they spend all their money on their event and they don't make any money from their event. Another problem is not taking care of yourself, aka the martyr syndrome, giving to everybody else, focusing on everyone else's needs except your own. And finally, not understanding how this event fits into the bigger picture of your business and your life. There are 10 elements that I'm going to go through to help you design your women's empowerment event for both income and impact. The first of these is the foundation, your purpose. Why are you doing this event? And when I talk about purpose, I'm talking about something bigger than just you. You might have a strategic objective and a reason for which you're doing this from a business perspective, and we'll get into that. But first, I want to think about a greater perspective. What is the bigger why for this event? What is it that you're trying to accomplish and for whom? Your purpose is your North Star. It's your guiding light. It's the thing that's going to get you through when things get tough. And let me just share that when you're doing big women's empowerment events, they often get tough. There's a lot of nuts and bolts, a lot of moving pieces, a lot of places where you might feel challenged. And so having that purpose really clear is going to help you all the way through. Once you're clear about the purpose of your event, the next thing to do is think about the people that you want to bring together. Who are they? Who are these women? What do they need? What do they desire? What do they know they want? These are the questions to ask in order to build out your theme and your content and your program and your speakers. Once you're clear about who you want to bring and what they need and want, you want to think about their pain points and problems. I like to think about pain points and problems in 3 categories. The first category are the problems that they know they have and they admit. It's what's front and center for them. It's what they're maybe up at night late Googling to figure out. It's the problem they know they have and they actively want a solution for. The second type of problem is the problem that they have, but they don't necessarily admit. This is usually a more internal problem, the way they feel about the original problem. It's usually emotional and heart-based. So for example, if you're targeting a group of women professionals, and the problem that they know they have is that they want to get ahead in their careers. Well, the problem that they know they have that they're not talking about or admitting is often the feeling that they should be further along, that they're embarrassed that they're not further along, or that they feel guilty perhaps that they're spending so much time and energy on their career and they feel like they should be more home with their kids. The third type of problem is the problem that they have, but they don't know it. It's the problem they don't know they have. It's their blind spot. Now, the blind spot is something that you might see very clearly, but they don't see very clearly. I'll give you an example. My friend, my client, Patty, she's a coach. She's the boss lady success coach. Her clients are type A overachievers. The problem that they know they have is that they want to get ahead in their careers. The problem that they don't admit is that they feel bad that they're not spending time with their family and their kids. And they also feel like they're not getting ahead fast enough. But the blind spot, the problem that Patty knows they have, that they don't know they have, is that they're not taking care of themselves and they have no boundaries and they're saying yes to everybody else and they're not saying yes to themselves. So if Patty were putting together a women's empowerment event, which she actually does, she might create an event that focuses on how women can get ahead in their careers and how they can manage the feelings of guilt associated with being a career woman. But while they're at the event, she could structure some of the content to help them recognize the blind spot, that they need to take better care of themselves. So that's how knowing these things about your audience can play out as you're designing your women's empowerment event. The third thing to look at is your promise and your premise. And these two things kind of go together. Your promise is the outcome that you're promising to the attendee, to your registrants. What is it that they're going to get out of this event? What outcome are you promising to them? The premise is why that outcome and why now? Why is this event that you're putting together so necessary and so timely in this moment? These two things together are going to form the foundation of your marketing. You'll want to lead with these and probably even come up with some sort of theme or title for your event based on your promise and your premise. The next item to focus on as you're planning your women's empowerment event is the profit piece. How are you going to make money? And how are you going to make sure that you don't spend everything you make? So that means looking at different revenue streams and business models to make your event profitable. Now, I'm not going to get deep into this topic in this video because I have other videos that exclusively talk about this topic. You can check out my playlist above or click on the link below. But quickly, I'll just review a few of the revenue streams you might want to consider having in your women's empowerment event. Number one, ticket sales. And specifically, not just one level of ticket sales, but maybe even 2 or 3 levels. What I found is there usually is somebody, or at least several people, who want to buy a VIP version of your event experience. Another opportunity for revenues are sponsorships and exhibitors, people who want to reach your audience and connect with them. Also, even speakers will sometimes pay you to be on your stage. Now, the one thing to think about there is that if they're paying you to be on your stage, that means they want to sell something to your people. And you want to be careful that your event doesn't turn into a pitch fest. Other revenue streams include, and my favorite are, back-end sales of your own products or services. You could sell a membership or something that continues after the event for a year afterwards to keep people connected and bonded and engaged. These are just a few ideas. I encourage you to watch my other videos to see a few more. The fifth thing to look at as you plan your women's empowerment event is your program. Now, by program, I'm referring to your speakers, your content, how you're delivering the material, and how you're delivering on that promise and that premise that we talked about earlier. So your program might be different people speaking. It might involve panelists. It might involve breakout sessions. So designing your program early on is important because that's what's going to make it interesting for people to sign up. I recently did an event just a couple days ago, actually, where they didn't have a program on the website. When you arrived at the event website, it had a list of a whole bunch of different speakers, but it didn't say what we were talking about. It didn't tell our title, it didn't tell the name of our talk or what the outcomes of each talk would be. And because of that, I don't think it was a surprise that not that many people signed up for the event. I think it's really important to make the value proposition of your event really clear, and nowhere is that more evident than in your program. One way to have excellent programming, and what I ultimately figured out how to do in my Women's Success Summit years ago, was to create a call to action for speakers. What I found was I had a few problems when it came to putting together my program. One of those problems is that I had a whole bunch of people trying to get on my stage, and another problem was that I had a whole bunch of ideas and nobody to deliver on them. So what I did was I had a list of the topics that I really wanted, specific titles, and that I was looking for. And I put into this call for speakers, I said, these are the topics and the titles that I'd really like to give, and here are some of the themes that I'd also like to see. So you can either pick one of these topics that I'm already showing here, or you can create your own, but please align with the theme of this event. That really streamlined the program for me. It allowed me to get much more targeted ideas and targeted applications from people so that I didn't have to do as much work trying to put it all together like a puzzle. Another thing to think about are the packages and prices that you'll be selling to get people into your event. Obviously, there's the standard register for this conference or for this event, which is pretty easy. People buy a ticket, they show up. But you can get really creative about this and create some unique experiences that have people invest more. I mentioned before that there's always a contingent of people who want a VIP experience. So one way you could do that is create special events like meet and greets with your speakers, or even special exhibitor tables just for your audience members. I used to create a platinum sponsorship whereby every platinum attendee who paid about 3 to 4 times what a regular attendee paid would get their own little table to decorate and set up so that they could feature themselves and their business. So depending on your audience, you might want to get creative about different packages and prices so that you can increase your revenues on the front end. The 7th thing to look at in your process is the planning of your event. Now, at this juncture, I don't recommend that you get too deep into the actual production details. That comes a little later. But planning insofar as you have enough to go to market. You have enough for people to register for your event. So what that looks like is basically it can be a venue, but it doesn't have to be. There have been times where I've planned the Women's Success Summit with a to-be-announced venue and still gotten hundreds of people to sign up. So at the very minimum, your planning involves dates and a city and a time frame for the event so people can at least block it out on their calendar. Another thing to think of at this juncture is the size of the event that you're looking for. How big do you want it to be? How many seats are you going to have to provide? So having that idea up front is a good thing, and that will support you later when you actually get into the production process. And of course, what would an event be if nobody came? You've got to promote your event. Now, when I did the Women's Success Summit for years in Miami, I developed a whole bunch of strategies to drive a few tickets each. I know everybody's looking for that magic bullet, that one thing that's going to drive thousands of attendees. But what I found was makes a lot more sense to have a mix of methods so that you get people in from all different angles. So the first, most obvious, is having an event website and then promoting that event website all over social media. Another strategy is to have partners. So I used to enroll people that were believers in what I did, and I would ask them to promote the event to their audiences. I made these people influencers, and I called them members of my board of advisors. And essentially, each one of these board of advisor members would get a free ticket, VIP, to the event in exchange for bringing a certain amount of women. Another place to go and promote your event is to have an Eventbrite page. And in fact, I highly recommend using Eventbrite to run all of your registrations. There are definitely other options out there, and maybe even cheaper ones, but I found that Event does a great service in helping promote your event for you and making the connection between Eventbrite and Facebook really easy. So for example, when you have an Eventbrite event, it might show somebody that has not registered for your event that 5 of their friends are going to your event. So that makes it really easy to tap into people's networks and grow your audience exponentially. Obviously, I also use email marketing. I use Facebook ads. There are so many ways to promote your event. I could probably go on for days on this topic. But in the meantime, these are some of my favorites, and I highly encourage you to do one extra special thing. Every time somebody registers for your event, send them an email automatically that allows them to get a special discount for bringing a friend, or 2 or 3. Bring a friend packages are responsible for more than half of the registrations for many of our conferences. The ninth thing to look at is your production. This is where we start to get into the nuts and bolts and nitty-gritty of planning your event. And if you're anything like me, this part of the event planning is not quite as fun as everything else. And so I highly recommend for this piece to hire someone to support you. What this person can help you with is negotiating a venue, negotiating a contract with the venue that has favorable terms. They can help you identify how to do food and beverage, how to do parking, arrivals, setting up for the sponsors. They can interface with the sponsors. This person is going to save you a lot of time, a lot of energy, and a lot of headaches. And if there's one area that I would recommend not skimping on, it's your planner. Now, by the way, I'm not going to get deep into this because I don't have time on this video, but I want to let you know that one of the biggest areas of expense for an event like this is with the venue. And I also want to let you know that very often this is an expense that you can reduce to zero. How do you do that? Well, the times that I've been able to get my venue fees down to zero have been by partnering with a venue. What that looks like is finding a venue that wants access to the audience that you're bringing to the event and is willing to host you and maybe even donate a space to you just to get that audience in the door. Example, when I did my very first Women's Success Summit, there's a wedding venue in Miami called the Coconut Grove Women's Club. And they had just undergone a renovation after 2, maybe 3 years off the market. And they really wanted to bring women into the venue and promote it as a wedding venue and show off the new digs that they created. So I got them to comp me the space for my very first Women's Success Summit. We brought hundreds of women through the doors, and they actually booked, I believe it was 4 weddings as a result of our event. They loved us. So if you can find a venue that has a vested interest in bringing your audience into their facility, you might be able to get your venue comped as well. If you are looking to organize your own women's empowerment event, I am so excited. I love doing this kind of work, and I love helping clients generate both impact and income through their events. So set up a call with me. Let's chat and see if and how I can support you. You can do that by going to superstaractivator.com/go or clicking on the link below so that you can set up a time for us to chat. I look forward to working with you.